This diagram maps out the fragile balance of galactic power. It rests on four rigid pillars: the Spacing Guild's interstellar monopoly, Chelam's economic control, the secretive Bene Gesserit sisterhood, and the Emperor's throne. Because this authority is distributed rigidly, if any single faction tries to seize control, the entire system violently fractures. Yet the people at the very top are already pulling at the seams. Crown Prince Shaddam and his assassin companion, Count Fenring, are quietly slipping a slow-acting poison into Emperor Elrud's daily spice beer to accelerate Shaddam's path to the throne. Shaddam wants the crown early, but he also wants to solve the Empire's biggest vulnerability. Right now, every faction relies entirely on one desert planet, Arrakis, for the spice melange, the substance that makes space travel and prolonged life possible. To bypass Arrakis, Shaddam plans to recruit the Tleilaxu, an isolated faction of genetic manipulators. He wants them to engineer a synthetic version of the spice, which would grant the Imperial House unchecked control over the universe's most vital resource. While the ruling elite plan their takeover from the top, they are ignoring the foundations. The danger isn't in the throne room, but in the tunnels and caves they've long forgotten. Take the underground tech utopia of Ix. Immense industrial scaffolds hold kilometers-long starships under construction. Here, a young visiting heir named Leto Atreides spends his days studying combat mechanics and the massive economy of space-folding ships. Leto has a habit of wandering. Leaving the polished upper levels, he takes an emergency elevator down into the planet's dark industrial underbelly, where the air smells of ozone and melted rock. He discovers the suboids, the pale, supposedly docile working class that builds the massive ships, standing shoulder to shoulder in a hidden cavern. They aren't working. A charismatic leader is delivering a fiery sermon, telling the crowd that the advanced combat machines and technology they are forced to build violate the sacred scriptures of the Orange Catholic Bible. The crowd's quiet resentment is boiling into rage. When the speaker spots Leto hiding in the shadows, the workers attack, and Leto barely escapes, running blindly through the dark corridors until he finds a lift to the surface. The masters of X believe they have built a perfectly controlled society. In reality, they are sitting on thousands of fanatical workers, ready to tear their utopia apart. To the Harkonnens, Arrakis is an industrial site, a resource to be harvested until the planet is dry. They treat the native people as target practice, and the environment as a simple obstacle to their profits. Imperial planetologist Pardot Kynes is surveying the deep desert when he stumbles across 6 heavily armed Harkonnen soldiers, cornering 3 young native Fremen. The soldiers are drawing out the fight, torturing the outmatched youths for sport. Kynes is an Imperial observer. He is supposed to remain neutral. Instead, he activates his personal shield, strikes from behind, and assassinates the Harkonnen guards with a poisoned blade to save the boys. The surviving Fremen are stunned. They lead this strange outsider through camouflaged fissures in the rock into their hidden underground city, Ashish, to stand before their fierce leader, Naib Hainer. This topographical map illustrates Kynes' pitch to the Fremen. He tells them he has the scientific data and the precise ecological blueprint to permanently transform their dead, scorched world into a lush paradise. Kynes isn't just offering a dream, he is offering a task. To reach this green world, the Fremen will have to coordinate across every siege, transforming their entire culture from isolated desert survivors into planetary engineers. At every level, the galaxy's rulers treat people as raw material. Reverend Mother Mohiam of the Bene Gesserit quietly corners the vicious Baron Harkonnen in his own bedroom, forcing him to participate in their secretive, centuries-long genetic breeding program against his will. The Baron's cruelty flows downward. On the heavily polluted Harkonnen homeworld of Giedi Prime, an 8-year-old orphan named Duncan Idaho is released into a dark forest reserve so the elite guards can hunt him down for entertainment. But the child refuses to play the victim. Duncan scavenges a laser rifle from a fallen guard, uses a glowing snowdrift as a decoy, and picks off his pursuers one by one, thoroughly humiliating the brutal Harkonnen commander, Rabban. His survival instincts earn him an unlikely exit. A disgruntled smuggler named Janess, angry that the Harkonnens never rewarded her for capturing Duncan's parents, intercepts the boy and sneaks him onto an off-world cargo ship just to spite her former employers. The elites of this universe operate with absolute impunity, but by pushing their victims to the limits of physical and biological degradation, they forge survivors capable of escaping their control entirely. In the cargo hold of that smuggler's ship, Duncan Idaho pushes a heavy crate aside to look out a small viewport. Below him is a sapphire-blue ocean world, Caladan. Caladan is the home of young Leto Atreides. When Leto eventually returns from his studies on Ix, his perspective will be permanently scarred by the furious, working-class rebellion he barely escaped, and he will soon meet a hardened refugee who survived the worst the Harkonnens have to offer. This network web shows how fragile the Imperial plot really is. Emperor Shaddam is banking his entire reign on securing a synthetic alternative to Arrakis' spice, but his scheme relies on Arrakis remaining a barren wasteland, the exact ecosystem Kynes is teaching the Fremen to dismantle. Meanwhile, the Bene Gesserit weave Harkonnen genetic markers into their secret lineage, engineering a child whose loyalties are decided before birth. The Guild and the Emperor assume that controlling the ships and the spice means they alone decide the direction of the galaxy. But the most significant changes begin in the dark: a boy finding a way off-world, a scientist joining a rebellion, and a prince poisoning a king. The momentum of power has already shifted.